contort their body. The passage was tight, tighter than any they had encountered so far. Michael wriggled his way through, while Henderson followed closely behind. Henderson had to contort his body, twisting and turning to navigate the sharp bend. Suddenly he stopped, unable to move forward or backward. His breathing quickened as the realization dawned on him. He was stuck, completely twisted. Michael, just in front of him, noticed his struggle and moved to help. The rest of the group waited anxiously in the wider section of the passage, their nervous chatter echoing faintly in the narrow confines. Michael crawled back, wedging himself into the cramped space to assist Henderson. The sharp limestone walls pressed against them, scraping their skin as they struggled. The cave's silence was soon replaced by the sound of panicked breathing and muffled shouts as Michael tried to free his friend. The effort was exhausting, the confined space sapping their energy and making every movement a battle. Henderson's body twisted unnaturally, wedged tightly in the unforgiving cave walls. Sharp edges dug into his ribs and hips, sending jolts of searing pain with every slight movement. His limbs' awkward bend sent relentless pressure on his entire body, making him feel as though the cave itself was crushing him alive. As the minutes turned into an hour, Michael began to feel the effects of the cold and exertion. Despite the cave's relatively mild temperature, the boys' bodies were losing heat rapidly due to their lack of movement and the constant contact with the cold limestone. And suddenly, the worst started happening. Michael's vision blurred, his muscles weakening as he continued to push and pull in an attempt to free Henderson. Without warning, Michael collapsed, his body slumping against the narrow walls. Panic surged through Henderson as he realized his friend was unconscious. Trapped and unable to move, he could only shout for help, his voice echoing through the passage. The boys waiting in the wider section of the cave were thrown into chaos. They scrambled to assess the situation, their flashlights flickering as batteries began to wear thin. The group realized they were in over their heads, with Michael unconscious and Henderson stuck. Their initial bravado turned to fear. The air felt heavy, amplifying their dread. Some of the boys began to panic, convinced the fire outside was consuming the oxygen. They decided they needed to get out at any time. The lack of oxygen will further make the situation for everyone. Every single one of them was now on borrowed time. No one wanted to leave Michael and Henderson behind, but they had no choice. Realizing they couldn't free their friends on their own, they made the difficult decision to leave Michael and Henderson behind and crawl back to the entrance to call for help. Outside, the counselors were oblivious to the unfolding disaster. When the boys reached them, out of breath and wild-eyed, he could barely explain what had happened. The counselors extinguished the fire immediately, their faces pale with realization. One of them immediately called 911, while the other decided to go back and comfort the boys, their attempts overshadowed by the gravity of the situation. Within an hour, rescue teams arrived at the scene. The first responders were experienced cavers, but even they understood the challenges ahead. Boy Scout Cave's tight passages were infamous, and navigating them while carrying equipment added another layer of difficulty. Reports of potential oxygen depletion added a sense of urgency. Inside the cave, the rescuers found the group huddled together, their faces pale and streaked with tears. The air was thick with fear and the imagined threat of suffocation. The rescuers reassured the boys while assessing the situation. Subsequent expert assessments revealed that oxygen levels in the cave were not compromised. It appeared that the initial panic had triggered a worst-case scenario mindset, leading the boys to mistakenly assume the cave's air was toxic. In reality, the air was safe, and the perceived threat had been largely psychological. Everyone was relieved to find that out. However, Michael and Henderson were still in danger. The rescue operation began swiftly. Teams entered the cave armed with specialized tools, including harnesses and chisels, to free the trapped boys. They followed the route outlined by the remaining group, their progress slow but steady. The narrow passages made carrying large amounts of gear impossible.